For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the evening of July 12, 2003, 21-year-old Khloe Riley, a cheerful college junior, left her campsite along the Guadalupe River in Texas to collect water. She never returned. Despite an extensive search involving local authorities, volunteers, and Khloe's distraught family, the young woman vanished without a trace. For 19 agonizing years, the Riley family lived with unbearable uncertainty, clinging to hope while fearing the worst. Then, in the spring of 2022, a fisherman made a chilling discovery, snagging a necklace bearing the initials CR. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Khloe Riley. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. The Guadalupe River, a shimmering ribbon winding through the heart of Texas, was a sanctuary for Khloe Riley. The 21-year-old college junior found solace in its cool waters and the shade of the cypress trees lining its banks. A vibrant and cheerful young woman, Khloe embraced life with infectious enthusiasm. Camping trips to the Guadalupe were a regular escape from the pressures of her studies, a chance to reconnect with nature and the close-knit group of friends she cherished. In June of 2003, Khloe joined her friends for what was meant to be another idyllic weekend getaway. The group set up camp along a secluded stretch of the river, the air thick with the promise of summer adventure. Laughter echoed through the trees as they swam, hiked, and shared stories around the campfire. As dusk settled, a hush fell over the campsite, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the gentle murmur of the river. Khloe, realizing the water jugs were empty, volunteered to refill them from the riverbank. She grabbed a flashlight and headed towards the water's edge, her silhouette briefly illuminated against the darkening sky. Minutes stretched into an hour, the usual sounds of nature now punctuated by an unsettling silence. Khloe's friends called out her name, their voices laced with growing concern. The flashlight beam, once a reassuring beacon, was nowhere to be seen. A frantic search began, the initial light-heartedness of the weekend replaced by a chilling sense of dread. The group scoured the immediate area, their calls for Khloe unanswered. As the hours passed, the realization that something was terribly wrong became inescapable. Local authorities were contacted, and a wider search effort commenced. Search and rescue teams combed the riverbanks, using boats and dogs to cover as much ground as possible. Divers searched the murky depths of the Guadalupe, hoping against hope to find a sign of the missing student. Days turned into weeks, but the search yielded nothing. Khloe's belongings remained untouched at the campsite, her tent, her backpack, her half-finished book, silent testaments to a life abruptly interrupted. The idyllic river, once a source of joy and tranquility, now held a dark secret. Khloe Riley had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a devastated family and friends grappling with an unimaginable loss. The initial investigation into Khloe Riley's disappearance began immediately, hampered by the challenging terrain and the rapidly fading light. Comal County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the remote campsite, the festive atmosphere replaced by an air of grim determination. Interviews with Khloe's friends painted a picture of a happy, responsible young woman who would never intentionally wander off. Their accounts corroborated the timeline of events leading up to Khloe's disappearance, confirming she had gone to fetch water and simply never returned. Initial theories focused on accidental drowning. The Guadalupe River, while generally calm in that area, could be treacherous in places, with unexpected currents and underwater hazards. Investigators considered the possibility that Khloe had slipped and fallen into the river, her body swept downstream by the current. Animal attack was another possibility explored, although considered less likely given the lack of any signs of a struggle or disturbance at the water's edge. The possibility that Khloe had chosen to leave the campsite voluntarily, perhaps experiencing a personal crisis, was also investigated. However, her friends vehemently denied this, insisting that Khloe was in good spirits and had no reason to run away. The lack of physical evidence presented a significant challenge for law enforcement. No footprints, no discarded clothing, no signs of a struggle were found. The darkness and the rugged terrain made the search even more difficult, limiting visibility and hindering the ability to collect potential clues. Among those interviewed were Khloe's boyfriend, Justin Rivers, and a classmate, Diana Spence, who were both part of the camping group. Rivers, visibly distraught, described Khloe as the love of his life and expressed his deep concern for her safety. He recounted their last conversation, a casual exchange about plans for the following day, emphasizing that there had been no arguments or disagreements between them. Spence, also appearing shaken by Khloe's disappearance, echoed Rivers' sentiments, portraying Khloe as a kind and generous friend. She confirmed that Khloe had seemed happy and relaxed throughout the weekend, showing no signs of distress or unusual behavior. As days turned into weeks, the initial flurry of activity surrounding the investigation began to subside. The search efforts, despite being extensive, yielded no results. Leads dried up, and the case gradually grew cold, leaving investigators frustrated and Khloe's loved ones with a gnawing sense of uncertainty. The idyllic camping trip had transformed into a nightmare, leaving a void in the lives of those who knew and loved Khloe Riley. The relentless passage of time became a cruel companion to Khloe Riley's family and friends. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. The vibrant image of Khloe, full of life and laughter, began to fade, replaced by the haunting specter of her absence. The initial shock and disbelief gradually gave way to a profound and enduring grief. Hope, once a flickering flame, dwindled to a faint ember. Khloe's parents, Sarah and David Riley, spoke of the agonizing emptiness that had become a permanent fixture in their lives. Every birthday, every holiday, every family gathering was a stark reminder of their daughter's absence. The unanswered questions surrounding her disappearance gnawed at them, preventing any sense of closure or peace. Friends recounted cherished memories of Khloe, their voices choked with emotion. They spoke of her infectious enthusiasm, her kind heart, and her unwavering loyalty. The Guadalupe River, once a shared sanctuary, now held a painful significance, a constant reminder of the day their friend vanished without a trace. The case file, thick with initial reports, witness statements, and search logs, gathered dust in the archives of the Comal County Sheriff's Department. Khloe's disappearance became another unsolved mystery, a cold case relegated to the back shelves, a testament to the limitations of law enforcement and the cruel indifference of fate. Periodically, the case would be reviewed, new detectives assigned, old evidence re-examined. Advances in forensic technology offered glimmers of hope, but each attempt to reignite the investigation met with the same frustrating dead ends. The lack of physical evidence, the passage of time, and the fading memories of witnesses created an insurmountable barrier to uncovering the truth. The community, once galvanized by the search for Khloe, slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The posters bearing Khloe's smiling face weathered and faded, eventually disappearing altogether. The media attention waned, the story relegated to the occasional anniversary piece, a poignant reminder of a young life lost and a mystery unsolved. A sense of resignation settled over those who had known Khloe. The belief that her disappearance would never be solved, that the truth would forever remain buried beneath the murky waters of the Guadalupe, became a painful reality they were forced to accept. The river flowed on, indifferent to the tragedy it held within its depths, while Khloe's loved ones continued to grapple with the agonizing weight of their loss, their questions unanswered, their hearts forever broken. The quiet hum of the forensic lab was punctuated by the rhythmic clicks of Matthew Caldwell's instruments. A seasoned analyst with the Texas Department of Public Safety Crime Lab, Caldwell was accustomed to the meticulous work of piecing together fragmented stories from the silent whispers of physical evidence. In the spring of 2022, a seemingly insignificant item landed on his workbench, an item that would reawaken a case long thought lost to the passage of time. A local fisherman, casting his line in the Guadalupe River near the original search area, had snagged something unusual. It wasn't a fish, nor a piece of river debris, but a delicate silver necklace, partially embedded in the muddy riverbed. Intrigued by the unexpected find, the fisherman brought it to the local authorities. The necklace, tarnished and worn, held a small, circular pendant. Engraved on the pendant were two initials, CR. The presence of what appeared to be dried, brownish stains on the pendant and chain immediately raised suspicion. The necklace was sent to the crime lab for further analysis, landing in the hands of Matthew Caldwell. Under the bright lights of the lab, Caldwell carefully examined the necklace. The initials CR immediately brought to mind the unsolved disappearance of Khloe Riley. While the connection was purely circumstantial at this point, The possibility that the necklace belonged to the missing student was too significant to ignore. Caldwell's first task was to determine the nature of the brownish stains. Microscopic analysis revealed the stains to be consistent with dried blood. The next step was to extract a sample for DNA testing. Despite the age of the sample and the potential for degradation, Caldwell was able to isolate a sufficient quantity of DNA. The extracted DNA was then compared to a DNA profile obtained from Khloe Riley's preserved personal belongings, provided by her family years earlier. The results, when they arrived, sent a ripple of excitement through the lab. The DNA from the blood on the necklace was a match to Khloe Riley. The confirmation was irrefutable. The necklace, lost for nearly 2 decades beneath the murky waters of the Guadalupe, had resurfaced, carrying with it a vital clue that could finally unlock the secrets of Khloe's disappearance. The discovery breathed new life into a case long considered cold. The dusty file was retrieved from the archives, the yellowed pages bearing witness to the initial investigation, the fading hope of finding Khloe. Now, with this tangible piece of evidence, a renewed sense of purpose invigorated the authorities. The necklace, a silent testament to a life tragically cut short, held the promise of answers, of justice, and of finally bringing closure to a family who had endured years of agonizing uncertainty. The necklace, once a simple piece of jewelry, had become a beacon of hope, illuminating a path towards the truth. The discovery of Khloe Riley's necklace sent shockwaves through the Comal County Sheriff's Department. The case, dormant for nearly 2 decades, was thrust back into the spotlight, demanding a fresh perspective and the application of modern investigative techniques. Deputy Zachary Lawson, a seasoned investigator known for his meticulous approach and unwavering dedication, was assigned to lead the newly reopened investigation. Lawson, though not involved in the original investigation, was familiar with the details of Khloe's disappearance, having reviewed the case file during periodic cold case assessments. He understood the weight of responsibility that came with this assignment, the renewed hope it represented for Khloe's family, and the challenge of solving a mystery shrouded in the mists of time. The advancements in forensic science and investigative technology since 2003 were significant. DNA analysis, once a nascent field, had become a powerful tool for identifying suspects and linking them to crime scenes. Digital forensics, virtually non-existent in 2003, now offered the potential to uncover hidden clues in electronic communications and online activity. Lawson assembled a team of experienced investigators and forensic specialists, determined to leverage every available resource to uncover the truth. The original evidence, carefully preserved over the years, was re-examined with a fresh set of eyes. Witness statements were revisited, old interviews reanalyzed, searching for inconsistencies or overlooked details that might shed new light on the case. The necklace itself became the focal point of the investigation. The location of its discovery, near the original search area, suggested that Khloe's body might be nearby. A renewed search of the river and its surrounding banks was initiated, utilizing advanced sonar technology and ground-penetrating radar to scan the terrain for any signs of human remains. The focus of the investigation shifted from accidental drowning or voluntary disappearance towards the possibility of foul play. The presence of blood on Khloe's necklace, coupled with the lack of any other explanation for her vanishing, pointed towards a more sinister scenario. Lawson and his team began to re-interview key figures from the original investigation, including Justin Rivers and Diana Spence. Both had been cleared of suspicion in 2003, their initial statements deemed credible and consistent with the limited evidence available at the time. However, the discovery of the necklace and the renewed focus on foul play cast a shadow of doubt over their previous accounts. The interviews were conducted with a new intensity, a sense of urgency fueled by the tangible evidence now in their possession. Lawson and his team meticulously scrutinized their statements, searching for discrepancies, evasiveness, or any indication that they were withholding information. The pressure mounted on Rivers and Spence as the investigation intensified. Their lives, once seemingly untouched by the tragedy, were now under the microscope, their every word, every action, subject to intense scrutiny. The idyllic image of a carefree camping trip began to unravel, revealing underlying tensions and hidden conflicts that had gone unnoticed in the initial investigation. The river, once a symbol of tranquility, now held the secrets of a dark and complex story, waiting to be revealed by the relentless pursuit of justice. The interrogation room was stark, the air thick with tension. Diana Spence sat across from Deputy Lawson, her posture rigid, her eyes darting nervously around the room. The years had etched lines of worry onto her face, the carefree college student replaced by a woman burdened by a long-held secret. Lawson, his voice calm but firm, revisited the events of that night in 2003, carefully dissecting Spence's previous statements, highlighting inconsistencies and pressing her for details she had previously omitted. He presented her with the necklace, its tarnished silver glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights, a tangible reminder of the life lost and the truth waiting to be revealed. Spence's composure began to crack, her carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of the evidence and the relentless questioning. Across the hall, Justin Rivers faced a similar interrogation. His initial confidence had evaporated, replaced by a palpable sense of unease. Lawson confronted him with inconsistencies between his earlier statements and the newly discovered evidence, pointing out the implausibility of his version of events. The image of the distraught boyfriend, heartbroken by his girlfriend's disappearance, began to dissolve, revealing a man entangled in a web of deceit. The interrogation stretched on for hours, the psychological pressure mounting with each passing minute. The carefully constructed lies, maintained for nearly 2 decades, began to unravel, exposing the raw emotions and hidden motives that had fueled the tragic events of that summer night. The idyllic picture of the camping trip, painted in the initial investigation, was systematically dismantled. Underlying tensions and simmering jealousies within the group came to light, revealing a complex dynamic far removed from the carefree camaraderie previously portrayed. The argument that had erupted between Khloe, Diana, and Justin on the night of the disappearance, initially downplayed or denied, became the central focus of the interrogation. Diana Spence, finally breaking under the pressure, confessed to pushing Khloe Riley into the river. In a fit of jealous rage, fueled by a perceived romantic rivalry and years of simmering resentment, she had lashed out, sending Khloe tumbling into the dark waters of the Guadalupe. The confession, delivered in a choked whisper, shattered the carefully constructed illusion of innocence she had maintained for so long. The truth, buried for nearly 2 decades, had finally surfaced, painting a chilling picture of a moment of blind fury with devastating consequences. Justin Rivers, confronted with Spence's confession, admitted his complicity in the cover-up. He confessed to helping Spence hide Khloe's body, weighted down with rocks, in a secluded section of the river. He further admitted to burying the necklace, hoping to mislead investigators and deflect suspicion away from himself and Spence. His motive, he claimed, was a misguided attempt to protect Spence, a desperate act of loyalty that had spiraled into a web of lies and deceit, perpetuating the agony of Khloe's family for years. With the confessions of both Spence and Rivers, the mystery of Khloe Riley's disappearance was finally solved. The truth, submerged for so long beneath the murky waters of the Guadalupe, had finally been brought to light, exposing the dark undercurrents of jealousy and deception that had led to a young woman's tragic demise. The arrests of Diana Spence and Justin Rivers marked the beginning of a new chapter in the story, a chapter focused on justice, accountability, and the long-awaited closure for a family who had endured years of unimaginable pain and uncertainty. The wheels of justice turned slowly but inexorably. Diana Spence, charged with manslaughter, stood trial in the Comal County Courthouse. The prosecution presented a compelling case, detailing the events leading up to Khloe's death, emphasizing Spence's motive of jealousy and the calculated nature of the cover-up. Spence's defense argued for a lesser charge, claiming the incident was an accident, a tragic consequence of a heated argument that had spiraled out of control. The jury, however, was unconvinced. After days of testimony and deliberation, they returned a guilty verdict. Diana Spence was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Justin Rivers, charged with concealing a crime and tampering with evidence, received a lesser sentence of 5 years. The court acknowledged his role in the cover-up, emphasizing the devastating impact his actions had on the investigation and the prolonged suffering of Khloe's family. Legal experts, interviewed for the documentary, weighed in on the complexities of the case, highlighting the challenges of prosecuting a case based on circumstantial evidence and confessions obtained years after the crime. They discussed the nuances of manslaughter versus murder charges, explaining the legal distinctions between intentional killing and an act resulting in unintended death. The sentences, they agreed, reflected the severity of the crimes and the mitigating circumstances surrounding each defendant's involvement. For Khloe's family and friends, the resolution of the case brought a complex mix of emotions. Relief that the truth had finally been revealed mingled with the enduring pain of their loss. The conviction of Diana Spence and Justin Rivers provided a measure of justice, a sense of accountability for the actions that had stolen Khloe from their lives. However, it could not erase the years of agonizing uncertainty, the unanswered questions, the void that Khloe's absence had left in their hearts. Sarah and David Riley spoke of the bittersweet nature of the resolution. The knowledge of what had happened to their daughter, while painful, brought a sense of closure they had long yearned for. They could finally begin to grieve for Khloe without the added burden of unanswered questions, their memories no longer clouded by the shadows of doubt and suspicion. A memorial service was held for Khloe, a poignant gathering of family and friends who came together to celebrate her life and mourn her tragic death. The recovered necklace, once a symbol of loss and mystery, now served as a focal point of remembrance, a tangible link to the vibrant young woman whose life had been cut short. The necklace, carefully cleaned and restored, was displayed in a place of honor, a testament to the enduring love of her family and friends and the unwavering pursuit of justice that had finally brought her story to light. The service was a celebration of Khloe's life, a time to share stories, to remember her infectious laughter, her kind heart, and the indelible mark she had left on those who knew and loved her. It was a time to grieve, to acknowledge the pain of her absence, and to find solace in the shared memories of a life lived to the fullest. The case of Khloe Riley's disappearance served as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of jealousy and deception. It highlighted the importance of perseverance in solving cold cases, the power of forensic science in uncovering hidden truths, and the unwavering dedication of law enforcement in pursuing justice for victims and their families. The Guadalupe River, once a symbol of Khloe's love for nature and the carefree days of her youth, now carried a different meaning. It served as a solemn reminder of a life tragically lost, a testament to the enduring power of truth, and a symbol of hope that even in the darkest of mysteries, justice can eventually prevail.